welcome again back for another episode of the Commission Project. So, as always, we have me, Wendy, the hostess with the mostest, all the way over on my right-hand side. Who do we have?
Johnny.
And in our middle, we have Andrew Guy here with us again, and we're going to be talking all about, guess what, guys? Federal politics this time. Whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Welcome, Andrew. Welcome.
Awesome.
So, I think this one's an interesting one for me, federal politics, because when I think of federal politics and I look at everything that's going on in the world around us, I'm like, surely people can do better, right? There's just something, it's just not, it's like everyone's out for themselves kind of thing, or I don't know, there's something going on.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do before we touch on all the things that we think are wrong and act like experts like we can fix them, can you explain to us how the Australian government is actually set up first?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and thank you again, once again, Johnny and Wendy, for having me back. It's really good to be back for another episode. It's really important that, just a reminder to viewers as well, in the previous sessions, episode you call it, we'll touch on the local government, we'll touch on state government, and this is now talking about the big one, the big or the biggest.
Yep.
And I think the important thing to remind people there is that Australia has got these three levels of government, and that is to share responsibility of running the country.
Yep, and it all serve different purposes, different functions.
Purposes, but some of it in some ways can interlink with each other. There are certain things, you will see state and federal working together. Other things you will see state and local government working together.
Yep.
And that's really a good setup. And I think just a question for young people out there, you may remind me to answer that later, but where do you think the federal government is based?
Oh, I'm writing it down. Just so we don't remember. So that'll be the last question before we close up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know in the US the government is based in Washington DC. That's where everything government happens.
Where is the federal government based?
Our federal government is based. But to answer your question, I think the federal government is a bit similar to state. In that the state has three parts of government.
Okay.
Or you can say that. So the federal government also set up in a bit in a similar way. So there is the parliament. So the parliament is actually sort of divided into two. So there is the upper house, which
Parliament's upper house,
which is where the Senate sits, and then there is the lower house, which is the House of Representatives.
Okay.
So just to break that down a bit, so the Senate is actually representing the states and territories.
Okay.
So each of the 6 states, Victoria, New South Wales, and 4 others, each of the 6 states has 12 senators.
Yep.
Okay. And then each of the 2 territories, which is the Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory, which is the ACT, so they each has 2. Okay, so that adds up to 76.
76 senators, okay.
And they're the one in the upper house.
So each state has 6 senators, or 12? 12, okay.
Yeah.
So each state has 12 senators, each territory, so Northern Territory and ACT has 2?
2 each.
Okay.
2 each.
2 each. All right, so that's 4 and then the 12. Okay,
Yep. So then that adds up to
76
altogether. And they're a bit lucky in the Senate. They got a 6-year term. So if you're successful, you got 6 years to do what you can for your community and I think for your state in that matter. And also I think half of the Senate is elected every time we go for election. So half of the Senate will be elected in 3 years and then another half get elected in 4 years. But altogether everyone serves
for 6 years. 6 years. So like you were talking that in any given time you got 6 or got a few that's on their way out and some that are just kind of starting their 6 year run.
Which is good. And then for the lower house, so the
Yep.
the members of parliament of the lower house.
Yep.
So there are 150 of them.
Okay.
And those 150 is not equally divided as the Senate. It's sort of divided according to the population.
Is that where our vote counts towards the House of Representatives? Is that right? And then each seat that's filled there that's according to what we voted for.
Yeah. So there's 150, and that 150, I'm sure New South Wales and Victoria will have a lot more members in the lower house, and that's because of our population. And then, so each of the member of parliament represent what we call the electorate, or we could call it district, but I think we know it as electorate. So in the city of Casey, we have the electorate of Holt, which is our electorate.
Okay.
So the member for Holt represent our community in parliament, which is Cassandra Fernando.
So she represents us in Victorian and federal?
So she represents us in the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah. So she represents us in the federal government, whereas Pauline Richards represents Cranbourne electorate in the state. In state government.
So, okay, we are there debating. The people that's debating on, but the ones that we watch on TV, shouting at each other and carrying on like teenagers, right? Which one is that? Is that upper or lower house?
That's lower. Most likely the lower house.
That's lower house. That's where the prime minister is. The naughty corner. Okay, that's the place where the okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense now.
That's the lower house. It's at times not a good example of.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's interesting how they go about the debating, and I think someone did a research to pick up how much time was wasted on the debating styles instead of going on to the point, and how they disrupt each other and how much time is wasted. So that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So it can put some people off when they see, our leaders talking the way they talk in some of the question times. But it's the way of the game, and
that's true.
And a lot of time they don't behave like that outside of the house.
That's
so
true.
It's a bit like in the midst of it, in the in the moment.
It's what they call playing politics, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, like, debate is always good. Regardless your views, values, etc. It's good to always sit down around a topic and just discuss it from different angles, different perspectives, and get to some medium, and then just continue, with life. I like that. I think maybe sometimes the ones who don't have a genuine point, to put up across, like an intelligent point to make, will this cause the ruckus by carrying on and screaming because you're not making your point. That's what I think happens there.
Yeah, but I think also back to that as well, we have the speaker in the house who is in charge of the debate. So he or she makes sure that everyone is in line.
Yeah.
And a lot of time they're very respectful of each other. But then if anyone crossed the line, they actually get suspended.
Okay,
they
that's
actually
good.
get kicked out of the house for maybe about 30 minutes. So you could miss out on so many valuable things being debated.
It's like a real naughty corner for adults. There is go. Okay. I like it. And you said there's 150 of them in the lower house?
Yeah, in the lower house.
And how long is your term?
3 terms. That's sort of 3 years.
3 years, not 6 years. Okay.
no, 3 years. Okay, so let me run through it quickly. So that's the sort of the first layer of the federal government. And then you have the executive government. So this is where we have the prime minister, and we know the prime minister is the leader of the party that wins the most seats at the election in the lower house. So that's where the prime minister sits, and then with the prime minister are the ministers. So the ministers are responsible for particular portfolios. You could, for example, we have the minister for health. That look after the policies to do with health system and things like that. And then part of the executive branch of the government is the departments. A lot of time we hardly hear about them, but departments do a lot of great work in supporting the ministers to do their job. So example, we have the Department of Immigration and Citizenship. So they work very hard around, who is coming to the country and who is applying for, citizenship and things like that. So that is the part that play a big role. Well, the third part, again, similar to state, is the judiciary, where we have the judges that decide, interpret the law that is passed by the, by the parliament.
Okay.
Just to make sure it's applied fairly. And we know, as part of the judiciary, is that the High Court is the highest court in Australia.
Yep.
So if you take your case to the High Court, whether you lost or wins, that's it.
There's no, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, it's just making me think because, I've lived in Australia so long. Have you guys ever seen the movie The Castle?
No.
Okay, so it's based around this family who had a house right next to the airport, and the government wanted to take their house because they wanted to extend the airport and build runways and stuff like that. Right. And he goes to the High Court, but he represents himself with just a lawyer that was like a mate of his or something like that. Yeah. Right. So,
what section of the Constitution has been breached?
Section? What section? There is no one section. It's just the vibe of the thing. It's all part of it. This is what I'm getting at. That's my point. It's the vibe of it. Again, it's just the vibe of it. In summing up, it's the Constitution, it's Mabo, it's justice, it's law, it's the vibe, and no, that's it. It's the vibe. I rest my case.
That was sensational.
It was it's funny, very funny. I can't even remember. Yeah, but it's just it's a comedy. Aussie comedy. So and probably I think it's from like the 80s or something.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
Because what's interesting about that is that the government actually have the powers to acquire, certain area.
What? Okay.
And if your property is there, they have the powers to do that as long as what they're doing is something like a airport. Yeah. Which So
benefits.
and I think and we know when state government did the what is it? The
East Lincoln stuff.
The elevating the railway line.
Those works, yep.
So there were a lot of properties that were acquired in the process. And so the government just want to make sure that the person who's losing their property is given enough funds to compensate themselves, themselves. But the government actually have powers to acquire certain area. So
I know they were doing it, I think, with Eastlink as well. Yeah, when they were building that. Because it was obviously cutting through where houses were, so they acquired those houses.
Okay, I suppose the only kickback with that will be like depending on the market values. Because if you sell up now, where do you buy? That'll be like the only argument you can take to court. I think that's a relevant argument.
I think a lot of people struggle with it though, because there were a lot of older houses and older people there, and they had like buried their cats and their dogs, and they're very attached.
It's more
to that.
sentimental.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. That's why being in government's not an easy game.
No,
it is not an easy game.
It's not easy. I think those are the thing. That's the sort of the makeup of the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who controls? So like right now where we are in the world with this oil crisis.
Yeah.
Which parts of government? I know we all point the finger to the Prime Minister. But which departments per se does one look at when it comes to that? Because this is touching foreign affairs. It's touching the economy, trade.
All that.